All right, hello, welcome. I'm gonna give people a little bit of time to get into the room as I don't actually see anybody yet. But what we're gonna do, here we go, okay, we have people, that's good, all right. So what we're gonna do here is I'll give you a little bit of an agenda. First, I'm gonna kind of go over the first 3 webinars. I'm gonna hit kind of what the high points of those were to give you a recap. And again, I wanna encourage you guys who have not been on those first 3 to go ahead and check them out. We'll give you a link here. So those of you who have not seen them can, highly encouraged. All the stuff in this webinar builds on the information in those 3 webinars. I'm gonna give you a summary so that you can understand everything, but you're gonna get a much greater depth of understanding and just take far more from all of this if you actually do watch all of them. So highly encouraged. We'll summarize the main points. Secondly, I promise you guys 3 surprises. So we will get into that. And then towards the end of the webinar, we're going to go into A to Z, how to get a girlfriend, which really is going to be about how to get the girl to want you not just as a sexual partner and not just be attracted in the moment, but how to get deeply invested, build a level of comfort with you, and actually we're going to talk about creating a narrative between you and her that will allow her to have a story in her head of exactly how things are going to work between the 2 of you. And then we'll tie all the stuff from all the various webinars together. It's a pretty ambitious project. I have a lot. For each of the webinars, I've had notes. The notes for this one are about, I think 3 times as long as the other ones. So there's a lot going on here, and I want to beg you to excuse me a little bit if I refer to my notes throughout, because there is a lot, especially when it comes to tying everything together. I want to make sure I don't miss anything, so bear with me a little bit on that. But it should be a really dense, content-rich webinar, and there should be a lot of really good stuff. And again, just the idea of bringing it all together is going to be really excellent. All right, so let's talk about, within the webinars that we've done so far, what the big takeaways were. So the first webinar was all about getting a solid number. And there were basically 3 major things that you need to do to get that solid number. The first is qualification, right? If the girl is not trying to prove herself to you on any level, if she's not jumping through your hoops, if she's not investing and committing, then she's just not gonna view things the same way. If it's just like she gave you the number on an emotional spike, well, when those emotions have left her system, she won't be there anymore. It's not gonna be anywhere near as solid as if it was based on something deep and fundamental. So that's the first one. Second is, if there's a premise for you to hang out, it's gonna be more likely to hang out. If you, within the scope of talking to her, are like, hey, let's grab a coffee, or hey, let's go work out, or hey, we have this thing in common, let's engage in that shared interest, that's gonna be much easier to get her to hang out than if she's like, hey, can I get your number? Because the number should not be an end in itself. It should be a means to an end, which is to see her again, right? So that's absolutely critical. Third is to try and exchange some data with her. The more that you get to know her, the more that she feels like she knows you, the more she feels like she was special, which goes along with the idea of qualification as well. So it all serves kind of synergistically to get the girl to feel like the interaction was real and meaningful, and there was some depth to it. Because it's very easy in pickup to have these interactions that will seem kind of superficial, don't seem like much was happening. And that's what we want to avoid, because that's when we get flaky numbers. Now, obviously, we can't stop flaking entirely, but we can do a lot towards it. The other last thing is that I did touch a bit on reframing and making her chase. And those are all ideas I'm going to bring up here in the webinar. So that'll kind of come full circle towards the end of this particular one. And again, what I've just said here was, I don't know, maybe a 3-minute, 4-minute summary of what was an hour-long training. So obviously, just scratch the surface. Go see the full training. It's amazing in and of itself. There's even some really good infield, so it's enjoyable, educational. Highly encourage you to do it. Some of the best training you'll get for free. From the second webinar. Second webinar was all about blueprint. So we were talking about the fact that while all girls are kind of the same in the sense that they have this sort of shared narrative of what it is to be female, and they have similar biological impulses, they respond to similar general traits in men, so they're all kind of the same. At the same time, they're all very different, right? They all have very different life experiences. Some were raised, richer or poorer, with more or less loving parents, with brothers and sisters, or as only children, with certain religious or social beliefs with other ones, etc. And all this is going to factor into what they view as value, right? And this is what we call their blueprint. So it's very helpful, not necessary, but helpful if you can understand a girl's blueprint. If you can understand what she views as valuable, it helps you to communicate with her in a way that she's going to view you as valuable. It also helps you to understand what kind of things she will and won't understand, what kind of things she will and won't relate to, etc. Even just for the basic, most fundamental level of her understanding literally what you're saying. If you know her background, you'll be able to say things in a relatable way. So that's obviously hugely, hugely important on many, many levels. So we talked about, first of all, how to discover that blueprint, how to find out, what kind of questions to ask, what you're looking for, that kind of stuff, which we touched on just now again. And then we talked specifically on how to sort of convey yourself based on her blueprint. And that's what we're really gonna kind of go further with in this webinar, is how to take that to the next level and how to take it beyond. We talked a lot about blueprints for attraction and blueprints for value. Now we're gonna talk on this webinar about blueprints for comfort and blueprints for, relationship, if you want to kind of use that terminology. And again, this was, maybe another 3-minute summary of an hour-long lecture. So I would recommend, going and checking out the actual full thing, especially if what I said just seemed to scratch the surface, which is kind of what I was doing. Go get the more in-depth understanding of this, because any of these concepts individually are going to massively improve your game. If you were to take just the idea of how to make a number solid, you would get massively better results in game. If you would take just the idea of blueprint, you'll get massively better results in game. So I'm going to tie everything together in this one. Again, that's coming towards the end of the webinar, but any of these ideas individually is worth discussing and looking at in depth. So I highly, highly encourage you to do that again. All right, third webinar was all about attraction. So it was attraction tactics, when they're good, when they're bad, what they are, how to practice them, that sort of stuff. And we talked about a lot of attraction tactics. We talked about push-pulls, mini cold reads. We talked about misinterpretation. We talked about just being polarizing in general, different things like that. But one of the big takeaways, and this is the one we're going to build on in this webinar, is the idea that it's not about the technique, it's about your frame and about compliance, okay? So it's about, is she getting into the right frame and is she complying? And I want you to think of all the techniques, all these different pickup techniques you learn, all the clever lines, that kind of stuff. I want you to think of them not as pickup itself. I want you to think of them as just tools to enact frame and compliance. I want you to just have that hammered in your head, frame, compliance, frame, compliance. That's what's really important, okay? So those are the ideas that we're going to really build on. The other idea that we'll build on a little bit is the idea that lower energy in general is better, okay? The idea that the more that you can get the same result with less effort, you're gonna be better off doing it in that way. Okay, so those are the key ideas we're going to be tying together. I want you to have just kind of a smattering of them, especially for those of you who have not been on the previous webinars, and for those of you who haven't been, welcome. For those of you who have been on all the webinars, I want to thank you for being sort of the core dedicated fans that have been coming at all different hours of the day and making time. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you for that. But yeah, for those of you who are new and who are just getting on, that's kind of a summary for you. For those of you who have been on the other webinars, obviously you're going to have a much deeper understanding, but that should be enough for everybody that you can kind of understand everything moving forward. So that's very key. All right. So before I go further into the whole girlfriend stuff, I did promise you guys a few surprises. And the first one, I can't deal with that. The first surprise that we have is that a lot of people have been asking me when the day game product is actually going to drop. All right, I get this question you should see my inbox with this question right now. And I've been kind of coy with it. It's been, hashtag day game is coming for something like 6 months now. But the day game product is actually going to drop. I'll give you the official time and date right now. You'll be the first on planet Earth to know. It's going to drop on September 7th, 3 days from now at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Okay, that's when it will go live. So mark that date, keep hold of it. It's Monday, September 7th, Labor Day, 11 a.m. Eastern. And also, because you guys have been, my core fans throughout all of this, I'm going to let you guys be the first to get a sneak peek inside the actual day game product. I'm going to show you around the members area a little bit, show you what features we have, show you a little bit of the content, that kind of stuff. So that should be pretty exciting for you guys. And I want you guys to know, I've designed this to be like really, really holistic. I've designed this to kind of hit all the different areas of game, because I see different students at different levels all the time. And some guys, they have the outer game. They've read I see guys sometimes that have read more pickup theory than I have. Like, they're referring to obscure things I've never even heard of. But they have like just terrible inner game, or they've never practiced. And that's not going to get them very far. Or I'll see a lot of times guys who have really good inner game. They're just confident, naturally alpha people, but they never learn the techniques of game. And so they don't really know what to do with a girl, even though they're very confident. And so, they need that outer game stuff. And then there are a lot of guys who are just unpracticed, etc. So I really look at game holistically, and I want to attack game from all different angles. And so as I show you all this stuff inside the members area, I want you to think about how each of these different areas and ways to attack game can be useful to you, and how you should be incorporating all these different things in your own learning process. Because again, this is designed as my best teaching method, but you should be employing this in your own game. All right. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a quick look inside. All right, I'm very excited to show you a little sneak peek inside of the day game program. Before I get into too many of the details, I want to give you kind of an overview of exactly what I was thinking when I put this program together. Essentially, I think that in order to get amazing at game, you need to attack it from a lot of different areas. You need to attack the inner game, the outer game. You need to get examples of what's good, and you need to get practice. And so I wanted to create a program that would have all of those different elements in it. Because if you've ever been in that situation where you are afraid to talk to the girl, you are just like flustered or feeling emotionally reactive, you know how difficult that can be. At the same time, maybe sometimes you feel good, but you just don't have the technique, or you don't have the skill, or the knowledge of what the next step is. Or maybe you've heard some theory, or you've heard some good advice, or potentially good advice from someone, but you're not sure quite how to apply it, or you're not sure exactly what they mean because you don't have a reference for what it's like in field. Or maybe you have all the theory in your head, but you haven't practiced it. So I wanted to be able to give you all of that. So in all of the modules in day game, which you'll notice here we have the how to get physical module. You'll notice here we have how top players smoothly escalate. That would be sort of like the mindset, the ideas in your head of how to go about doing escalation. Then we have the ABCs, the technical aspects. So obviously, if you have the mindset right, that helps. If you have the technicals right, that helps. But if you have both, now you're golden. Then we have infield demo, me doing escalation right there, and then infield exercises, things you can go do to practice on your own in the field. So all these modules have these different areas. If we go back to, for example, how to make her instantly want you, here we have, again, how to inspire attraction, desire. This is the mentality of being the right type of guy. What will make her chase you, exactly the techniques. Infield breakdown. Exercise you can do at home. This is a new feature that's never been seen in any product before. And then infield exercises you can do in the field. So every single module has all this stuff. And the modules really do hit on everything. We start from why day game, differences between day game and night game, which are overview. We go to how to be attractive, how to start a conversation, how to make her instantly want you, how to get physical, how to kiss, how to get a number, how to do an instant date, how to text and call girls, how to take a girl home, and even have some on how to initiate sex. So it really is every facet of every part of the game. We have everything from the first second, even before the first second, what you're thinking, all the way up until sex. And we break down the mentality, the technique. We give you examples, and then we give you tons and tons and tons of exercises. So it's really designed to be that comprehensive program where even a new guy can get good at this in a few months rather than years. And if you're a guy who's already good, you're going to start seeing amazing results like almost instantly. Just because you're attacking every single part of the game all at once. So that's a quick look at the core product and why it was designed the way it was. If you look across the top here, you're going to see the bonuses, which is where it gets really, really exciting. We'll start off here. We have my manifestos. We have the technical game manifesto, the how to decipher her blueprint fast and effectively, how to game in college, and then a manifesto on hooking and vibing. So those are really in-depth theory, really in-depth reports of like my most technical stuff, all the like really nitty-gritty details that no one else will be sharing with you. Then we have the superchargers. list of my best openers, list of my best field-tested attraction lines, and then a guide to gaming in any venue. This is to take whatever level you're at in game, and just these are things you can add in instantly to just take you to the next level. Okay, now it gets really exciting. Every month, I'm going to be doing a webinar with everybody where you can ask me your questions, get feedback, have some personal interaction with me, because I know that I want you guys to learn in an ongoing way. I don't want it to be a situation where you go through the course once, learn what you can, and then you're done with it. Well, first of all, this course is designed so that it will hit you at beginner, intermediate, advanced. You can keep looking at it over and over and over again, so that won't be the case anyway. But on top of that, I want you to have access to me and access to getting your questions answered on an ongoing basis. I want to really encourage you to make this something that you're making a part of your life. I really appreciate the dedicated type of guys we have with RSD, so I want to encourage that. So we have monthly webinars. Then we have one of my favorite things, the Robo-Todd. And this is kind of an interesting idea when it came up. Essentially, a lot of times when students ask me questions, they don't ask the right questions. They'll ask me a question, and then in order to get to what their actual sticking points are, I have to ask them follow-up questions. And I thought to myself, what if I could teach people to ask themselves the right questions? Because if you ask the right questions, the answers a lot of times are not that difficult. And I didn't even know if this would be possible, but I thought if it could be possible, it'd be amazing. I asked some of my immersion students about it, and they said it'd be one of the coolest things they'd ever seen. So I set about doing it, and I actually came up with an answer to that. So basically, I've come up with two sort of like, you can call them flowcharts or mind maps, and they're actually interactive. So they'll ask you the question, you answer, and they'll ask you another question. But the first one diagnoses your mistakes. The next one teaches you exactly what to do next at every part of the game. So this is literally like the closest thing to having me there to diagnose and go over your sets and figure out your sticking points with you. So it's incredible new thing. Very innovative, and I really like it. The people that have seen it have been just blown away by this. And then you guys may have noticed this module over here, the day game hot seat module. And that's where things get really, really exciting. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about next. Cool. All right. So to talk about, by the way, I do see you guys' comments, like different features of the program, asking about discounts and all these various things. We will get to all of these things very, very shortly. But I do want to talk about the hot seat and the student infield, because this is truly, truly exciting. Basically, I took an entire day game hot seat and I put it into the program. So we have 18 sets broken down from open to close. Obviously 4-hour sets, we've cut to the good parts, but 18 sets open to close with full breakdown. And for any of you who have been to my hot seat, which I assume probably a lot of you have, you know the kind of level of analysis and detail that I put into to my hot seat breakdown. So it's that kind of level of analysis and breakdown. And it's actually from the comfort of your own home, because one of the biggest things I got asked in hot seat is, can I get access to the videos? Because I got so much information out, but it's hard to absorb all of it in one sitting. So this is actually a hot seat that you can take home. It's given to you in your home, and you just have it there for your review at your leisure. And then on top of that, we have student infield, which is basically the idea there is when you watch me do game infield, you see game done right, but that's with 15 years of experience. So I wanted to include some student infield, so you see the type of sticking points that are very, very common, the things that I see very commonly from newbies, from intermediates, from advanced. So we hit out all those different levels of sticking points and show you the solutions exactly to them. All right, so that's what we have there. As you can imagine, as you can tell, first of all, it's kind of an insane amount of value within a program. And in fact, it's actually so much value that I had to twist Nick and Owen's arm to let me even put this together this way. Especially the idea of putting essentially a hot seat type program out in this format was just it was an ordeal to get that put out. So much so that they wanted to put it out at quite a high price point. And I told them, look, I want people to have access to it. I want, especially my core fans, to be able to access it and to be able to, those are the people that really need it. And they were pretty adamant on that, especially when I'm essentially giving a hot seat with it. It can't be it can't be just given away. But here's what I told them, and here's kind of the deal I made with them. I said, look, guys, I can, market this program all day long, but what's really going to make people see the value is when they actually get the program and look inside of it. And so we want people to get a hold of it, right? RSD is a community, which is actually one of the things I love about the company. And so when a few people start getting this program and seeing how amazing it is, that's when other people are going to want to be on board. And so that's why I want to show it to you guys, like my core fans, the people that are coming to all these webinars first. And I have something very, very, very special for you guys, which is I was able to twist Nick and Owen's arm. And for 1 day only, I'm able to give you guys a 45% discount on the day game program. So when it launches on September 7th at 11 a.m., from September 7th, 11 a.m. until September 8th, 11 a.m., and only those 24 hours, it will be at a 45% discount. If you try at 11:01 on the 8th, you will be out of luck though. I was only able to get it for just that 24 hours. So that's absolutely it. And I know that like people are gonna like email me and beg and plead and tell me like change my mind on that after the fact. I might even get people hating on me and saying like, fuck you, Todd, why can't I get in at that price? I'm telling you guys right now, absolutely, that is the price. That is the only way that it will ever be done, okay? So know that going in, know that there's a special offer available to you, but that's only for that day. That is it, all right? So just to recap quickly, what are you getting? You're getting that whole base product with all of the different stages and levels of game, with mentality, with techniques, with infield demo, with at-home exercises, with infield exercises for every single part of game. This is the kind of thing, I designed it so that a newbie, if you came into this as a complete newbie, if you're willing to take a little responsibility and a little bit of action, you could get good at game within months, like just maybe 3-4 months instead of years and years. If you're intermediate, even faster, maybe just like 1 or 2 months. And then if you're advanced, you could be instantly within like weeks getting to really, really, really high levels. And it can really hit all those different levels. So that's the core product. And then we have obviously the full hot seat, which is, obviously just incredible in and of itself. The student infield, and then you have all the other programs, sorry, it's funny I call them programs because they actually could be products themselves. But we have the manifestos, we have the RoboTod, all those different things all baked in, all right? So that's something pretty special for you guys as action takers. Really, I designed this to be the product that I wish that I had when I was starting out, because when I started out, there were no resources. I was 18 years old, in college, lost, doing day game, and I was doing everything wrong, banging my head against the wall, and I really would have loved this kind of guidance. So this is literally the product I wish I would have had, because it has every single form and facet of teaching game, and it's also the only product that I've ever seen, and the only product I believe exists, that will teach you how to get just about any girl, because it teaches you how to adapt to any situation, any girl, without having to supplicate or change who you are or fall into her frame. So that's why I actually really, really, love this product. This is near and dear to my heart, and I could tell you stories like my apartment the last 3 weeks has been basically, we call it the video editing sweatshop to get this all put together. But it's been worth it. So that's a little kind of look into the product. I hope you guys are as excited about it as I am, because I'm just I'm thrilled about it. All right, so let's get into the how to get a girlfriend stuff though. Now that I've shown you a little bit of the product, I've shown you some inside stuff. And what I really want to get to here is one key concept. The key concept for getting a girlfriend that I want to hit on is a concept I call Plotline. All right. And Plotline, what it really means is having a narrative to your interaction. Because so many guys, when they get to be sort of intermediate at game, they learn a bunch of attraction techniques, or they learn a bunch of I do this, she does that, I get a response when I do X, Y, Z. But they don't really have a direction. So they just keep pushing the same button over and over again, and they keep kind of spinning their wheels in set. I joke around, I feel like certain guys, I say they're trying to open their way all the way to the close. They just do this cocky, funny opener stuff, and they think that if they just keep doing it, it's gonna get them there. And there's no progression in their set, there's no direction to where they're going. And this is what I'm talking about based on Plotline, is you want to give a girl an experience. Think of your interaction kind of like a romantic comedy. Think of it as a movie almost, where she's experiencing a beginning, a middle, and an end. She's experiencing growing with you and getting to know you. And that's very critical for her to have. And I want you to think, how do I make the girl brag about me? I want you to have that in your head. How do I make her brag about me? In order to understand that, I want you to think about what would make you brag about a girl. Like, you know, when you meet that girl and she's, you know, really amazing set, really amazing girl, and you go tell all your friends about it. Why do you brag to them, and how do you brag to them? Okay? First of all, why you brag to them is probably because of some sort of perception of status. Right? Whenever you go tell your friends, like, yeah, this girl was in Maxim, or this girl was a cheerleader, or this girl was a yoga instructor, or this girl was like, you know, 5'9" blonde, or whatever your type is, right? Or this girl was like a total my type of girl with XYZ feature, or she had this degree. So there's these certain things that you view as sort of like, it's a win for you if you get her, because you view her as status, you view her as having some kind of aspirational accomplishment value. All right, so that's very, very, very important, right? So that's part of it, is the why do you brag. The second is, how do you brag? And usually then you start bragging about either the interaction or the connection, right? So you talk about like how you're both into the same like obscure type of comic book, or how like you both grew up in this same part of the country and have like similar friends, or some weird esoteric thing that makes you believe that there's more of a connection there. All right, so those are the two things. There's the why of bragging and the how of bragging. And I want you to think, again, if the girl's gonna be your girlfriend, I want you to think, how do I make her brag about me? How do I make her view being with me as a win? Because you have to understand a girl's position. The girl's position in a lot of things is that she wants to have sex, right? We talked about this a lot when we talked about the attraction stuff. She definitely wants to have sex, right? But she doesn't want to feel slutty about it. She doesn't want to feel bad about herself once she has had sex. So she needs you to help her get out of her way. She needs you to make it an okay thing for her, right? So you need to make it a win, not a loss. If it's a loss for her, she won't do it. If it's a win for her, then she'll be on board. All right, so when you talk about making it a win for her, when we talk about how she wins, that's where we get into the things like the attraction lines and the qualifying, right? So if you set up a frame where there's some push-pull involved, there's some emotional spikes, when she's qualifying and she has to prove herself to you, when that's the case, then she's gonna view being with you as a win. She's gonna view that to be, you know, if I get with him, I've achieved something, as opposed to if I get with him, I lose and I gave in. So that's very, very critical. I love that. All right, sorry, I'm just looking at some of the some of the comments here. I'll get to all these other comments about the product as well in a second. Let me finish the lecture stuff and give people the full girlfriend thing, and then we'll get back to that for sure. But I appreciate the questions, guys. Okay, so that's the first thing, is she needs to view you as a win. Second thing is she needs to view that there's a connection there. Again, I mentioned this on the Blueprint webinar. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I did, where I talked about the girl needs to have sort of the ability to suspend disbelief, the ability to believe, even if it's for a one-night stand, that on some level it was special. On some level, she wasn't just like a pair of legs to spread for you, right? And here what we're gonna talk about is a concept that I call wide and deep rapport, okay? Wide and deep rapport is the idea that you're gonna be talking to a girl on a couple different ways. Wide rapport is the ability to talk on a lot of different subjects with someone. So if, say, you and I were friends, and I could talk to you about football and like the news and working out and the last book I read and I don't know, 10 other things. Now I feel like we have wide rapport. I'm not gonna feel as though if I meet you at any point, it's gonna be that awkward silence where we have nothing to talk about. I feel like we can talk on a wide array of subjects, and that makes me very comfortable. However, I might also feel like our interaction is very superficial. We're just touching the surface of a lot of different things. I won't feel deeply connected. On the other hand, we have what we call deep rapport, which is, say that, for example, I personally am really into soccer, right? I'm really into soccer. I've loved it for my whole life. So if you were really into soccer and you followed maybe some of the same teams as me, and we could like discuss like who's transferring to who and what's going on with this coach and this tactic or some like really nerdy soccer stuff, I would feel kind of connected about that. That'd be really cool for me. But at the same time, if that's all we had, then I'd feel like I could only talk to you about that. I'd feel like, well, when I want to have a really deep soccer conversation, I can call this friend up, but I can't talk to him about anything else, okay? So ideally, what you'd like to create with girls is a situation where you have both. You'd like to have wide rapport and deep rapport, okay? If you have just wide rapport, you end up being sort of like comfortable platonic friend usually, right? If you end up with just deep rapport and no wide rapport, you end up having that like really intense kind of conversation that you think you've met the love of your life, and then she doesn't return your phone calls because she feels awkward, because she feels like you're either going to talk only about that subject or that you're way too into things, okay? Excuse me. So you need to have wide and deep rapport both. It's very, very, very critical. You need to be trying to create that, okay? The other thing I want to kind of emphasize too is this. You guys probably know the value and comfort model of game, which is that in order to, somebody put Manchester United, whoever put that, I love you. That's awesome. That is my team. For anybody else who's teams with other people in England, please don't hate me. But anyway, what was I going to say? Sorry, I just happened to see that in the comment box. Sorry, got distracted. Okay, so we have the value and comfort model of game. Right, you need value and comfort to sleep with a girl. And obviously, well, typically in a social circle situation, you're going to meet them and do a lot of comfort first, and then you can build the value later. In cold approach, you don't have that, I guess, luxury. You have to build the value first, otherwise they won't stick around, okay? And that's very, very critical to build that value. And so people look at cold approach as having phases. First you have like the value phase and then the comfort phase. And this is why a lot of guys mess up. Because what happens is like, oh, I built value. She sees I'm a high value guy. Now I can just build comfort. And then they become Mr. like connection showed and stop doing all the things that got them that value in the first place. Okay, it's very, very critical that you not drop the value when you get into comfort. But it is very critical you make that transition, because if you stay value, value, value the whole time, the girl won't trust you, the girl won't feel any intimacy or connection. So what I want you to think of is instead of stages, instead of it being like the value phase and the comfort phase, I want you to think of there's like the high value ratio phase and then the high comfort ratio phase. So you start out early in the interaction doing a lot of value-based things and very few comfort-based things. And then once she kind of pops, once she realizes you're high value, you do more comfort-based things, but you never drop the value entirely. Okay, that's very, very critical. You always need to keep part of it. So maybe it goes from 80-20 value to 20-80 value towards the end. But the other thing is, this is as far as I know, a completely new and nuanced point that nobody's ever really brought up in the pickup world. So listen closely to this one. It's not just the ratio, it's that the type of things that you're gonna do to build value fundamentally change. Okay, so early on, the way that you build value is with these like push-pull, mini cold read, sort of like quick, silly statements that are not very connected and not very personal. They're just like follow the format. They follow the format of being a value statement, or of being, you know, a cocky, funny line, or of being frame control or something like that. But they're very quick and they're not very personal. Later on, what you're gonna do to build value is you're gonna build value on a deeper level. You're gonna build value by doing your frame control, using information the girl has already given you, using the things that you've already learned about her, discovered about her, already found out that you liked about her, etc. Also, you're gonna start doing your value-based things, not through the frame of me against you, but in the frame of us together, all right? So the pronoun of the interaction is gonna shift from being I to being we. Right? Instead of I'm this and you're this, instead of I and you as separate entities, now you're creating this idea of we, this idea of like sort of a bubble of love between the two of you. And so one good example of this is early on in the interaction, we talked on webinar 3, which by the way, check it out if you haven't been to it, about the mini cold read, right? You're so X is just like Y. And we even did an exercise for that on the webinar. And that's very, very good early on in the interaction. It's even good late, but it's really an early game tactic. It's not something you're gonna do a lot of like with a girlfriend, like someone that you've known for like 6 months, or even someone you've been talking to for, you know, more than several hours. But what happens is the mini cold read, the substitute for that becomes kind of this thing we call the future adventure projection, which is now you're making up scenarios of you and her together in the future doing various things. And this is an attraction tactic because you're not saying like, oh, we're gonna get married and we're gonna drink wine and eat cheese with a picnic basket in the park and like cheesy, stupid stuff like that. you're going to do different cheesy, stupid stuff, but with like attraction tactics and push-pull. So you'll be like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get divorced, then break up, and I'll take half your money, and your parents will hate me and chase me down. But I have such a winning personality. Your mother won't be able to resist me. I don't even know what the fuck I'm going for that. But the point is, you're making up these stories that have we in them, and there's a future of we together and a future experience there, as opposed to a disconnected you versus me experience. Okay, so understand that's the big transition. And that's just one example of it. It's not like the future adventure projection is the be all end all or anything, but it's a good example. If you contrast the mini cold read to the future adventure projection, that's a very good metaphor for the early game attraction versus the later game attraction. Okay, so I want you to think about all that. But again, remember, it's not just about what tactic are you using. Mostly it's about ratio. Mostly it's about the idea that early on in the interaction, it's a lot of value, a little bit of comfort. And then later on in the interaction, it's way, way, way more comfort. And you're still slipping the value in, but it's not quite so much. All right? So what I'm going to do, because I'm sure that was like a little bit esoteric and all over the place, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you an example of a lot of this at work, and I'm going to break it down in some level of detail. So here we go. Okay. This is actually an example from a date that I was on. And one key interesting thing that I do on dates that I really encourage is I encourage that if you can, get the girl to meet you at or near your place for dates. And I also encourage you to get her to go into your place with you right at the start of the date if possible, because it just gets her used to being there. And if she's already been there at the start of the date, then it's very easy to get there at the end of the date. Now, this may seem impossible to a lot of people, so I'm going to show you an example of just how easy it is right at the start of this date. So have a look. But this is taking way too long, so she's probably waiting. And
no, it's all good.
Feeling terrible.
I kind of want to come somewhere outside. Is that possible?
Listen, I'm right there. We'll go up and Google a place. I know there's one sangria place, but it's not outside. But come.
Oh, okay, cool. What?
You don't have to just see how easy that was? Already within, 10 seconds of the interaction, she's already coming up into my place. How good is that? How much easier does that make every other single thing that's going to happen there? And what did I do? I just made it no big deal. The same as you would do with any kind of venue change or pull. I just made it no big deal. And obviously we'll talk, that's just like scratching the surface of that topic. Obviously, like if you go to the day game product, there's like an entire module for venue changing and pulling, etc. But that's a very key point of it is that you want to make it not a big risk for her.
This one I had one line. Just had to do the line a couple times, and then the dance one I had to dance for like an hour.
One thing I want you to notice, this right here is a big bag that she is carrying because she just came from another activity, which I don't want to get into for biographical details. But she just came from somewhere else, so she has this big bag. And what's going to happen actually is she's going to come up, and you'll notice after we come up and go down, she's going to walk around. She doesn't have this bag anymore. She actually left her bags at my place. How good does that make the rest of the date? Right? She left her bags there. I know 100% at the end of the date, she's coming back to my place. How good is that? B&B always everything, so it's never.
So be sketched out by this?
If you feel like being sketched out, great. If you feel totally sketched out, you can wait outside. So actually, here's what we should do. We should just get our phones out and like stare out. So now this is after we've been upstairs. We came back out. Now we're just walking on the street. And this is an example of what I told you about earlier, the future adventures projection. This is an example of one of those. We'll have a really long in-person phone call.
We could do that. I wonder what people think.
They think we're like a married couple that are both cheating on each other already.
Okay.
I'm talking to my mistress. You're talking to your mister. Whatever.
And like we're both okay with it.
Will you marry me? Are you rich? Answer the second question first. So notice, by the way, I'm going to rewind this in a second. Notice that mini cold read, the structure of what I was doing. So the idea of we being together builds a lot of comfort and commonality and builds a relationship. But everything that I'm saying within that are high value frames. It's this idea of, we'll be cheating on each other. Everybody's like that way. I just expect it. All those kind of things. They're sort of playerish frames. They're sort of high value, flippant, I don't care kind of frames. But it is within this guise of we. So it's still attraction material, but it is a more connected form of attraction. I'm going to rewind so you can just catch the next little bit here. Sorry. All right, here we go.
We're both okay with it.
Will you marry me? Are you rich? Answer the second question first. Right, and there you go. That's will you marry me is like the most connected thing possible, but I'm clearly joking. Answer the second question first. Are you rich, etc. Okay, so again, there's this combination of there's still a lot of attraction going on, but it's this more connected form of attraction. It deals more with we, etc., etc. You can use that.
Yeah, there we go. Now I have a new
way to, solicit patrons of the arts.
Exactly. Thank you. See, it's worth it for me to meet you.
I'm glad I could contribute in some way to your life.
I'm a little bit intimidated by all this.
I'm sorry, I'm just a man, really.
How do you do that?
How do I do what?
Skill.
What's the skill?
Nothing. I'm not gonna.
Being as ridiculously arrogant as I am? You're not gonna compliment me?
No, absolutely not.
It's gonna be a very bad relationship if we don't compliment each other.
Oh my god.
I think that people in a relationship should make each other better, don't you?
I'm having a lot of trouble.
Do you know how to do it? And this is another really great thing that you can do to build value deeper on. And this is something I didn't talk about earlier, but is the idea of teaching girls something. This is something that's way, way underutilized in the gaming community. If you're in the frame of teaching, you are automatically high value because you have a skill that they are trying to acquire. But even beyond that, you're the one dictating what's going on. You're the one leading. There's so many positive things going on in teaching, and it also literally is value. Information, knowledge, new learning is value. Okay, so anytime you can teach girls things, very, very useful. Now, early on in the interaction, they may not accept your frame. They may not be willing to be taught. But later on, when things are going well, take this frame of teaching them things. It's incredibly, incredibly useful for that deep connection. And it's also something that's totally sustainable throughout an entire relationship. It's not something where you need to have some gimmicky line or you need to be in state to do it. You can always teach people things, okay? So that's why it's so, so, so great.
You want to show me?
I'll try. As best I know how.
Uh-huh.
So this goes here.
Oh, I was really wrong already. Okay.
Probably higher up, but it's okay. I guess closer is better for control. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then second one goes between this and this.
Okay.
All right, and then you just use this finger. You can support with that. Okay, yeah, there you go.
Oh. Really?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And I can't see the comments right now, but I'm sure there's some smart ass telling me that like I use chopsticks wrong or something. But anyway, we'll check for that in a moment. But honestly, what all my Asian friends have told me is as long as it works, as long as it gets food from plate to mouth, it's acceptable.
Really? Because I feel like if you cross it, it's a much tighter grasp.
It's what?
The food. I feel like it's just more secure.
Remember when I talked about the attraction tactics earlier where I said less is more, right? So here I'm doing misinterpretation, but she just said like the word tighter, and because I've done so many misinterpretations before, I just go, it's what? And raise my eyebrow, and she automatically knows that I'm referring to the tighter, knows that it's a sexual innuendo, and just by like raising my eyebrow, I made a full joke that's gonna make her blush and get flustered and giggle off of almost nothing. And the further you go into the interaction, the more leverage you have, the more that your push pulls and the more that the attraction things you're doing should be of this nature of very muted, like very not try hard.
Stop twisting everything I say.
I'm glad I make you insecure.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Let's throw this chopstick at you. It wouldn't actually do it.
You'd have trouble eating after that.
It's true.
I'm not twisting things you said.
You are.
No, I'm just taking the real, meaning and bringing it into the
Oh, that's
light.
what you're doing? Oh, I'm glad you're telling me that.
Like, have you ever done that, acting exercise where you go, line, subtext, line?
I'm gonna do that. Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just bringing the subtext to the surface. I'm just calling out the subtext.
You're calling out your subtext. Not necessarily mine.
Thank you for calling me sub anything. I'm super text. Like, what is that? I'm like, it's a cherry. Just that's kind of hard to make out. She said "fuck you," sort of in a flippant, kind of negative kind of way. Not negative, but like the kind of "fuck you" teasing kind of way. But anyway, it's kind of hard to hear, so I thought I'd narrate it. I think we should take our time with that.
I'm done. I'm so done. I'm not even gonna say any more words because you're just gonna twist them.
Well, no, I'm not like opposed to the idea. I think you're very attractive.
Why?
I just feel like I'm at a point in my life where I want to be a little conscientious about who I get involved with, you know.
Oh, you're still talking. Why are you still talking?
So anyway.
Did I try everything?
Not everything, but most of it.
No, I think I did.
You tried the bean paste and the...
I didn't try that. I did try that.
Oh, yeah?
I tried that with the real way to hold the chopsticks that I gave up on already.
We're all right.
I was over it.
We'll teach you over time. I have a friend who holds them like this. He's like, And this I put in this is kind of interesting because this is very not gamey. But because I've shown you guys throughout these webinars so many clips that have been very gamey, and you know, I show you like the high points because that's the things most guys do wrong and most guys don't know how to do. Most guys know how to have normal, boring conversation. But I'm throwing this in here, and it's not completely boring, but it is a little more dull, just to show you the ratio, which is it can be very, very like a lot of innuendo, very sexual, and then it goes back to very boring, and that's fine, right? Just because the conversation was intense and sexual and very man to woman for a period of time doesn't mean that it has to stay that way, okay? It doesn't mean you have to force it to stay man to woman throughout. So don't be that guy that can't let go. It's very, very important to be able to back off. There's the phrase like in escalation, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's what you kind of want to do. He holds them like this, and he can literally like spin it out to like all the way here, and then like snap it back like instantly and spin it, and he can get them like this, like a vice. But do notice I'm still conveying attractive qualities. I'm still being a leader. I'm still excited about what I'm saying. I'm still telling stories, etc. So it's still attractive, but it's not all gamey. It's not all game all the time. Think of game as the seasoning rather than the meal. It's amazing. It's like some ninja stuff.
So if you traveled, where's your favorite place you've been?
And over in like the different package, but like it's really good.
It feels so good every time you open it. I don't know. I liked it.
What she said. I'm sorry.
You.
Again, we've been there. Let's take it slow. All right, so you see a lot of really intense misinterpretation there. You see very strong reactions. And obviously, like that kind of a situation combined with the fact that, you know, her bag's already at my place, we've already been back there. This is a very good scenario, and that's how you want your dates to kind of be going, all right? Now I kind of touched on this, but I want to tie it all together a little bit further. So remember on the first and third webinar, we talked about attraction tactics and qualification, kind of, you know, how to get a solid number. A lot of that's qualification and frame that way. So that's tactics and qualification. And then on the second webinar, we talked about blueprint, all right? And then on this one, we're talking about in order for a girl to want to be your girlfriend, there's 2 things she needs. First, she needs to know how she wins by being your girlfriend. And then secondly, there's this idea of how it makes sense for the 2 of you to be together. All right, so that's what you're getting is how she wins and how it makes sense. I want you to look at the qualification and tactic side of things as the solution to how does she win. All right, that's how you set it up as a win for her so that she can have sex with you and not feel slutty about it and not feel like she gave in. Right, that's very critical. And then for the how it makes sense, that's finding the blueprint. If you find her blueprint, now you can show her all the ways it makes sense. Now, obviously, you can mess up either of these a little bit and still get away with it. But if you're really honed in on them, that's when you're going to be brutally efficient. That's where you're going to get like really solid, really amazing results on an ongoing basis. And so that's how all of this ties together. All right, so that's sort of the holistic view of game. And I want you to think of all the tactics, all the little bits and pieces as sort of means to that end, means to the end of creating that frame of how does she win and how does it make sense for you two to be together. Because if you create that, you're going to be in excellent shape with girls all the time, okay? So that kind of ties it all together, and that's what I really wanted to share with you guys, that brings it as more of a holistic model of game. All right, so with that said, I want to just basically tell you guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed the training so far and learned a lot from them. I've actually really enjoyed doing these, and I'll probably actually do more in the future. They've been pretty amazing. But what I want to tell you is, I want to kind of remind you that what you've seen here is just a taste of what I have in day game. I mean, it's just a few hours worth of training, so it just really scratches the surface. of what's in the day game program to go really, really deep. Highly, highly encourage you to do that. And again, quick reminder, just so you know, I want you guys to be aware of the date. September 7th, 11 a.m. to September 8th, 11 a.m. Get in at that 45% off reduced price. Seriously, as my core friends, as the guys who have been on all these webinars, as the guys that when I put up a YouTube video, hopefully I think a lot of you guys are, the first 100 or so people that are commenting. I really want you guys to be the ones who benefit the most from this, so get in on that date. Super, super critical. I want you to get it then instead of paying full price later. So do that for sure. And just a quick reminder of what you get. You get the 5 modules, the mentality, the theory, the infield demonstration, the at-home exercises, and the infield exercises for every single part of game. It's truly a program that will take you from, even as a beginner, get you amazing in a few months, and if you're advanced, it could be just a matter of weeks even, because it's so honed to so many different things. So you have that core product, then you have the hot seat, full day game hot seat, 18 full sets broken down, plus student infield footage broken down. Then you have the other bonuses like the webinars every month where you can talk to me, like the RoboTod where you can actually diagnose exactly where you're at, exactly what you're doing wrong in every interaction, all those kind of things, and then my various manifestos and my superchargers. So highly, highly encourage you guys to get on that. You guys are really, really gonna love it. And again, thank you guys so much just for being the guys here that are the most core dedicated guys. The fact that you're here, the fact, especially those of you who have come to all 4 of the webinars, I know you're dedicated. You guys are the ones who I really want to see get results. So take that dedication and really do something with it, all right? So again, reminder, 45% off, September 7th to September 8th, 11 a.m. to 11 a.m. Be there at that time. And with that said, thank you guys so much for coming out. I really, really, really appreciate it. Take care.